Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFLW Fantasy Fanatics round review, post round 3 of the AFLW Fantasy season. We're recording live. We're not recording live. We're just recording on Sunday, the 31st of August, after round 3 has finished up. And I'm joined by my co-host and fellow AFLW Fantasy Fanatic, as always, Tom Hales, who's been busy moving house this weekend. I think more specifically today, mate. How are you? Has the weekend been, I'm assuming, pretty busy and probably not a lot of football watching?
Yeah, exactly. It's been an absolutely mental weekend. Moving house, for those of you who've done it, you can probably agree that it's one of the most stressful things, but nice for a little bit of light relief and chat some AFLW fantasy. And for the little bits that I managed to catch this weekend, I can give a little bit of insight and how my week went, I suppose.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Now, looking forward to hearing how you went. And jumping on with us this week is a very special guest. So we went HatChat last week. Thought we'd double up and go HatChat again. And it is the best coach on the HatChat podcast for AFLW Fantasy to begin the season. It is good friend of the show, Jake. Jake, mate, how are you? It's been a good start to AFLW Fantasy for you. But how was the weekend?
Thank you, mate. No, good weekend overall. Good start to AFLW Fantasy, albeit a dip this week and almost not the best coach from HatChat after a good week from one of my fellow co-hosts there. But we'll get into that during the episode. Overall, good weekend. Interesting weekend of AFLW, though. I'm sure we're going to have some fun to talk about tonight.
Yep, exactly, mate. Well, let's kick things off, and we'll. What did you do for trades this week, Jake? So we'll quickly look at our trades from last week. What did you do for your trades?
Yeah, great question. This is going to hurt Bales, but we did talk about it before you made your trades, and Siren Watson was out for me, which obviously paired out very well. 34 points, really nice trade out. Kosh obviously out injured, so that was a nice move as well. And I'm trying to find off the top of my head where the rest of my cash came from. But of course, it was Bonnie Toogood and her 2-week suspensions. They were the 3 outs. I brought Laura Stone in, which was fantastic. I enjoyed that. Ash Woodland in, which was a little bit disappointing in a very nice matchup. Not a bad score, but I kind of expected a little bit more from her. And then I used Lily Patterson just as the utility, who was bang average, but was only there for a bit of cash gen as a cheap rookie anyway. So overall, not bad. I didn't improve my team significantly this week, but still had a pretty good week.
Yeah. Oh, you did. You traded Siren Watson, so that's all that matters. You didn't get that awful score that was on Saturday afternoon. Tom, what did you do with your trades this week?
Trying to think back now. I said on the last pod that I wouldn't mention her again, but you've asked me the question. I traded out Ange Stannett, Bonnie Toogood, and Ash Centra. And I brought in Tess Boyd, who did amazingly. Love her. Who else did I bring in? Taylor Harris, which is a little bit disappointing. And I brought in Laura Stone, who was awesome. So
yeah,
kind of okay trades. Not too upset. Very happy with the cash gen that resulted from that.
Yeah. Good trades there, mate. My trades are not amazing, I would say. A few sort of not great trades. I'm just pulling them up here. So for the week, I decided to trade Paxi Paxman out, which I wasn't watching that game, but at halftime, I was glad I wasn't watching that game because she was on about 60 odd at halftime and was quiet in the second half. Thankfully for my sanity, because my sanity was already put to the real test on Saturday afternoon, which we will chat about when we get to that game. But yeah, so I went Paxi out to Tessa Boyd, putting back on field along with Jess Wrench, which I'll be fixing that up this week, but good for the cash gen at least. Bonnie Toogood went up to Ash Woodland with that cash, and then went Hayley McLaughlin across to Laura Stone, which I was happy with that move there as well. So trades, not too bad, but yeah, maybe Watson instead of Paxi would have really ticked those trades off this week, and maybe a different forward that I did shout on Friday. I probably should have gone there, but we'll chat about that very, very soon. But Jake, let's get through the weekend recap. And how did you go, mate? What was your score, your round rank, and where does your overall rank sit now? Because you've been right up there to begin the year.
Yes, so very interesting one this week. I ended up scoring a 13.28, which was subpar for where I was ranked before the round, which was 126th. For intrigue, I was exactly 126th at 3/4 time of the Brisbane Carlton game, and I thought, all right, it'd be nice to hang on to 150. Thanks to Bree Conan, I ended up at 234, so I slid 108 spots in the last quarter of that game, which was a bit of a shame. +3, -3 now? Did you ask that? I've just had a brain fade.
No, we're about to do that. We'll go to Tom Score Marshall, and then we'll go to +3.
I'm panicking a little bit here.
He's got his HatChat host hat on, and he's going there straight away, and he's the guest on this one. So we'll go very shortly to +3. But Tom, how was your rank? Sorry, your score. Not how was your rank? How was your score, your round rank, and your overall rank?
I'll give my rank as well. I had a really nice week. I had a 1392. Which was a round rank of 404. Nice. And that bumps me up to 388th, which is a nice rise of about 700 spots. So heading the right direction, up about 3,500 spots from after round one. So nice couple of weeks. Hopefully can keep the momentum going.
Beautiful, mate. Nice move this week. I was a 1304. I thought I was on for a horrific week. Didn't actually turn out to be too bad. I just thought it was going to be a lot worse. So I guess a few players this week, particularly one midfielder in particular, really helped stick to a decent enough rank. So up at 709, so down 140 spots. As I said, not too bad considering I thought I was going to fall lower. 2254 was a round rank as well. Let's go to +3s now, Jake. Who gets yours for this week?
Thank you, mate. Look, I can't not give my +3 to Ash Riddell. Obviously, fantastic starting pick, 155 average over the last 2 weeks. Shame to see Jazz Garner go down. That'd be interesting to see what comes from that. But obviously, what did come from that was an even more positive second half from Ash. So hard not to go there. The ton from Zali was not bad as well against a very tough opposition in the Crows. So kind of an honourable mention there. -3 is a little bit of a tough one. I think in short, it's going to go to Jess Wrench, and that feels harsh, but I was going to trade her. I don't know if you boys remember I said at the start of last week she was going to be a trade. I was pretty well ready to go, but with the weather, I ended up trading Serene instead. But I was going to bench Jess for Tessa Boyd. Emma Carney coming in gave me a bit of a concern around exactly how much usage Tessa Boyd would get. So Jess Wrench came back on field. I started with Tessa Boyd. You boys may or may not know that. I brought her in to loop Wrench's score in round one. So they've got this weird connection. There's something going on there. So I've enjoyed all the cash gen from the start, which was nice. But missing that score and those 40 points this week is the difference between me being inside the 100 and being at 234.
How good a starting pick on the bench, by the way, to use as a loop and then coming on and back-to-back 72 and 80. That's amazing pick. Don't even have to waste a trade. It's perfect. Tom, who gets your +3?
I mean, my +3 has to go to the best starting ruck pick there was, Matilda Schultz.
That's harsh, Tom. That's harsh.
137. The fact that she's over $1 million now, absolute elite pick. Goals, marks. If she can a few more tackles, please, that'd be fabulous. Just get it over that 150. No, and I'm saying this to tease Bales because he started with Matilda Schultz.
Blood pressure rising rapidly.
But unfortunately traded her out. I mean, Havana Harris did very well. Like 74, cash gen's going well for Havana. You can't be too upset, but no, that score basically set my week up. My -3, I think it has to go to myself. Just my decisions around what players I'm going to field. I've currently got a defender on the bench and a defender in the utility. I managed to pick the worst one possible on field. Jake?
Can I recall listening to this last week and you also gave it to yourself? Did you not get enough of a rocket?
No, I get to understand it last week.
Oh.
I understand it.
I give it to yourself for keeping it. I think is what you said.
Yeah. I mean,
a theme.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's a theme. And I could give it to Serene Watson for a 30 odd. It was horrendous. she might be in my trade plans. She might actually not, because she's lost that much cash. It's not worth it anymore. But yeah, no. Having Tess Boyd at utility for 80 and Beckott for her very good score, and fielding Jess Wrench is a bit of a kick in the teeth, and that could have pushed me over that 1400 mark, which would have been lovely.
Yep, exactly. My +3 would have gone to Ash Riddell. Big reason why I think I didn't fall as far as what I thought today. But I will give it to your honourable mention there, Jake, which was Zali Goldsworthy for a 102 in a tough matchup against the Crows. Played a lot of midfield time. I think deep forward a little bit of the first quarter, but after that it was pretty much bulk midfield time for the remainder of the game. And that's what happens when Zali plays midfield. Who would have known that was going to happen, that she actually can get the football and play really well in the midfield instead of being stuck deep forward. So, no, 102, very happy with that there. -3, I'll give it to a player in a sec, but my actual -3 goes to the Gold Coast coaching staff. I don't think I've ever in men's football or women's football or any sport ever in the world seen a player so free in that game, Port Adelaide and Gold Coast. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Tom's +3, Matilda Schultz. She was the most open I've ever seen a player before. No one within probably 20 meters of her, just running into open goals, taking marks in the middle of the ground and going to us. And shout out to Jace as well, who sent this in our Discord chat earlier today. But this is what Matilda Schultz, the stats that she led for Port in the game yesterday. So she led Port for disposals, marks, hit-outs, goals, inside 50s, meters gained, shout out to Jake, loves that stat, clearances, contested marks, contested possessions, score involvements, and time on ground. There is not a stat available where she did not lead. She led every stat.
Except tackles.
Exactly.
She needs to tackle more. Get that 150.
2 tackles, absolutely deplorable, Matilda. I hope you're listening.
And the thing that's so, and for those playing along at home, I traded her out last week for Vanna Harris because she dropped a lower score, ruck scores were down. Thought, yep, let's jump off. And then she, I think, what was it? Kim Rennie got injured in the second half last week, so she was rucking against a ruckless North Melbourne, and she goes up against Gold Coast, who dropped Lauren Bella, which I still can't understand how Gold Coast dropped her. So anyway, that's rant over. That's done. So my actual -3 goes to Serene Watson, who I could go on another roundabout, 35 points. Tom knows I was really keen on Charlie Thomas, who, in all offense, didn't do that much better, but has now scored Serene Watson in 3 straight weeks. And I was really keen on Thomas. I wish I went there. Unfortunately, did not. So Serene Watson gets my -3. Let's go to a AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League update. So I have prepared this before we went live. So I'm very happy with that. But we do have 24 coaches inside the top 100, which is pretty good. So over a quarter of the coaches in there is, almost a quarter is really nice there. And shout out to Sam's team. I don't have the whole team name on the phone. It doesn't come up with it. But he is currently leading the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League with a 43-71. So going along very nicely. So he's currently 5th overall behind Kevin's team, who's scored 44.06, currently leading number 1 overall. And to be the 100th coach, you need a total score of 42.40 as well for those playing along at home. But let's go to the Content Creators Cup before we get into the games. It's the AFLW Fantasy Content Creators Cup for round 3. Jake, how did you go in your matchup this week?
Yeah, I'll have to let everyone know this is the only time I'll be coming on to the Sunday night review this year because it's the only loss I've had. My 2-0 has become 2-1. A little bit disappointing. I don't know that I can blame it on being on tonight, but I've got to use something. And I did go down to Mel, I believe, this week. Main difference, but she decided to captain Ash Riddell and I kept it on Noffy. So that was the difference maker. Something I wanted to do, didn't have the balls to do with the light matchup for Noffy. So well done to Mel. And yeah, back next week is the plan.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And the thing is, no one's undefeated. Everyone has lost a match, and I believe everyone's got a win. So very, very close to start the season after 3 rounds. Tom, how did you go in your matchup? Because you're up against another free kick member.
Yeah, I managed to get a nice comfortable win in the end over Will from the free kick pod. He unfortunately had Jazz Garner captain, and that kind of killed the contest, as Will made the very, very courageous move to trade out Noffy last week, which I actually think is a fantastic move. And if Jazz Garner was to be on track for a 120 again before an unfortunate injury, definitely means there's going to be a trade-in target soon, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an unfortunate one, that's for sure. And I got a win, which I didn't think. So last week I lost with Ash Riddell's 160 as a unique to one side of sliding doors, being Jackson. This week is up against the other side of sliding doors, JS, and he had Matilda Schultz as a unique. But thankfully, I still got the job done because I had Ash Riddell as a unique. So finally, Ash Riddell as a unique got me the win, 1304 to 1290. So a 14-point win there. So really happy with that. The other results there. So Jackson was up against Eloise. Eloise had an absolute massive week with a 1466 defeating Jackson, 1290. Who would have known that him and Jazz got the same team, and they got the same every week? I wonder when their team will differentiate and they'll do different trades or different captain or something. Be interesting to see. Jaiden went down to DC with 1106 to DC's 1276. Obviously, Jaiden's obviously on his honeymoon, so probably AFLW Fantasy isn't at the forefront of his mind right at this moment in time. Liam also had a massive week as well with a 1429 defeating Jono, the other member of Free Kick, with a 1331. So not too bad. And then obviously ladder, as I mentioned, no one is undefeated and no one is winless. Everyone has got a win. So we got 5 coaches on 1 win. Obviously JS and Jackson are 1 win and a draw, or 2 wins and a draw. No, sorry, 1 win and a draw. I was right. Hang on. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. I got it right. I got it right eventually.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and then you've got the other 5 coaches are, sorry, hang on, is it 5? Yeah, other 5 coaches are all on 2 wins and 1 loss. So it'd be interesting to see how that shapes in round 4. But let's, without further ado, get stuck into the games, and we'll start off on Friday night, which I believe is our sort of only Friday night game for a while, because I think we've got a lot of Saturday and Sunday games with the men's finals kicking off this week. So we'll begin with Richmond and Essendon up in Darwin, with Essendon winning by 15 points. And Jake, who gets your stud from this game?
Yeah, I mean, there was only 2 players that have been in my team previously, 2 players who are absolute jets in the midfield, and that's Georgia Nanscorn and Monconti. I don't think there was anyone else in the game that's really surpassed their scoring, albeit I did look at Paige Scott as a bench option, noting that she'd had 2 pretty poor scores, and a 64 considering how cheap she wasn't bad. But look, I think I'm going to give it to Nanscorn. A 122. She's performing particularly well, starting to probably show up on my radar for movements in that midfield side. Talk about filling the stat line, 12 tackles, 27 touches. We know Monconti's a jet. I think that's less of a surprise. Nanscorn was Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago for my team. So good to see that she's really keeping up with the best in the biz. Yeah,
exactly. The dud from this game, not too many poor performers here, looking here, but it's probably stiff to give it to Courtney Murphy, who scored a 42. It's just that she scored 42 in like about half a game. So it could have actually been really good if she'd played the whole game. But unfortunately, she's sharing Matilda Dyke, who only went this 18, but she's not really fancy relevant compared to a Courtney Murphy. But Sierra Greaves is someone, Jake, that might have been in the mix for stud from this game, because she was very good and will be someone that we'll chat about in trade targets when we get to that later on in the show. Moving over to the Saturday games, we'll go to GWS and Adelaide, with Adelaide getting the job done by 32 points with only 1 goal kicked to the right of screen with that breeze. So an interesting game to watch. Who gets your stud?
Yeah, there's a few different thoughts for me here. Obviously, we've already talked about Zali, so I don't think I'll give it to Zali again, as much as that was great for me. I kind of give it to Cambridge. I think McCormick, key defender, stats, 107, are unique for some teams, including Mel against me this week. We've seen her perform a fair bit in previous seasons, but yeah, very interesting stat line. 1 hit out, which is always fun to see, but 9 tackles, 20 touches, and 2 behinds for someone who we know to expect to line up off the centre-half back flank. I didn't see much of this game, but I heard a lot in a number of group chats that I was in.
She's epic.
And absolutely impeccable performance from all reports.
Yeah, no, she was fantastic. I think it was was it last quarter? Yeah, she laid 4 tackles, I reckon, in the space of like 2 minutes. It was incredible to see. You pretty much your key defender laying 4 tackles. She's looking really, really good in this role. And yeah, if you started her, which I know that Eloise and Liam both started, and they nearly traded. I know that Jono started, but unfortunately, I think he traded out McCormick this week, which obviously was a tough one there. But no, she was fantastic. The dud from this game, geez, there was a few real poor performances, but I don't think there was many more than Chelsea Randall. 16 points in a full game is not good, and she's obviously dropping a heap in price, but she's got a real bad forward role, not getting out the ground. I think I played her in my game day squad this week, so thought the matchup would be good, maybe kick a couple of goals, but how wrong I was. Only kicked the one behind, so yeah, tough one there, but there were some other sort of poor performances, like Inya Rashid with a 21, like even Brooke Tonnen, 41 is not really what we want. Ponta with a 45 after a ton the week before. So there was some really tough scores.
Ponta had a great first quarter as well, or first half of the first quarter. She was on 20 points almost instantaneously. I thought, that was a mistake. She's going to go huge. One thing I'd like to ask, because I did actually watch a little bit of this game, are we worried about Noffy?
I don't think I am, personally, in terms of, I don't think she's the auto captain. I think that's pretty much official now. I don't think she's the auto captain that we lock in every week. But last week she had over 30 touches, and I believe that the first round she also had high 20s. This week it was the touches. She only had like 17, I believe, but she had the tackles. So she's still getting the tackles. If you look at round 1, she had 29 touches, 8 tackles. Last week she had 31 touches, 10 tackles. This week she had the tackles, but not the touches. Beck Beeson was following her around a lot in this game. There were times where she wasn't, but yeah, when she was, it was just a bit of a weird game. That breeze just made the game, I think, really odd. So I'm still backing Noffy in, but I think that she's not probably the set and forget captain every week, Jake.
Yeah, no, I feel much the same. DC mentioned it in the group chat today. He said, I think it's proof that starting Noffy was not the play.
Yeah, great.
And I kind of, no, I'm happy to argue against this, right? Like, sure, she's lost 300K. She's still the 4th highest averaging player, right? Now, if you'd gone Garner instead, well, you're making a forced trade this week. The average is behind. Laura Gardner last week looked good, but 2 subpar scores either side of her. I mean, I started her and Riddell. There's an argument that maybe there's 2 or 3 other players that were a better pick than Noffy, without a doubt. We can obviously talk about, some of the Melbourne mids, Tyler in particular, but I don't know about most people, was not on my radar. So it's all good and well to say, yes, that was a better pick. Yeah. But if no one had considered it, like if I looked at the other players I considered, it was Charlie Rowbottom, who's been a bust, Laura Gardner, who's had 1 good week. And
then Garner, who was injured.
Garner, who was injured. Yeah. I did have Ella Roberts in my side at one point. So that's probably the one that could have worked particularly well. But I really do believe that she's still the 4th highest averaging player. If you did fade her and you managed to go Riddell instead, but I think most people were looking at it purely as respectfully hindsight heroes and actually weren't even considering the players who would have been a better pick.
Yeah. And I guess that you're looking at the minus 376K to start the year. That's probably why people are like, it hasn't worked. But as you say, who would you pick instead, Tom?
It's just if that would have allowed you to do something else somewhere else. Like if you'd managed to get a Tilly Lucas Rod, who started the year absolutely on fire, instead of
to an extent as well,
or even in Minnesota to an extent. Even though it's going to be a sideways trade from Matilda Schultz in a couple of weeks for all of us who own Bills.
And it's a funny one for me, right? Because if I look at the options, I started Mim, and probably the one that I think people would kick themselves over are those that had Zippy M6. I think if you had Zippy M6, you could have had Zippy on field and then use that cash to get a genuine premium in another line. That's the scenario I'd be mad at. For me, I got Mim anyway. I had Zippy on field.
Yeah.
That they're the only boxes I could tick. But that scenario, I get, Tom.
So it's quite the 3 was a little bit of an experiment because me and Bales both started the same midfield. We both started Marinoff, Gardner, Riddell, Bowers, Prasparkis with Zippy and Centra, M6 and utility. I traded Gardner last week. Bale stuck fat with the big mids. It's going to be interesting to see by the end of the year what. Obviously, there's other factors, but to see which of those is going to be the right thing to do, I'm still not sure. Because Bales has Zippy's cash as like fun cash. He can just put it on the head of somebody, whereas we're still trying to find other cash to put on Zippy's head to get up to a preem. Given Zippy's been amazing, but she's not going to be a keeper. We're going to want 5 110 plus mids, and Zippy's not that. So it can be interesting. It can be very, very
and I think that's why my store's a bit down as well, right? Because I only had Riddell and Marinoff go tons in my midfield. So obviously Bowers, Prasparkas, and Gardner all went sub-tons. So we're interested to see how it goes. Obviously this week, not good for me, but we'll see how it does look moving forward. Moving to the next game, St Kilda and West Coast, with West Coast coming from behind. I believe they were behind at three-quarter time. They were 5 goals, 2 in the last quarter to 1 behind for St Kilda, getting the job done by 14 points. And I think I know where your stud from this game will be going, Jake, because you mentioned her just before.
Well, I mean, maybe I want to switch it up just because you said it. It feels like,
fair enough.
no, obviously Eagles, fantastic win, massive performance for them. I think, Ella's the obvious choice. Something that I think is worth calling out, though, if we're looking away from Ella, is Sarah Lakai. Obviously, the Liz McGrath discussion was prevalent last week, and a particularly interesting one now, noting if Lakai holds the role now, actually back in the side, pretty cheap, having had that pretty low score round 1. Be very interesting to see what people do in their ruck lines and if they do anything left of field, because Liz McGrath owners would be unfortunately pretty devastated after what Lakai did on the weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't trust the West Coast rucks moving forward. It's Liz McGrath was great last week. Lakai comes in and I'm on ruck. It's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what Daisy Pearce has done with West Coast since she's been the coach. But yeah, Ella Roberts, 80 points second half, which was incredible. That last quarter, 48 points with 2 goals, certainly a big reason why West Coast got the job done.
She's top 5 player in the competition now, Ella Roberts.
I think so. Yeah, agreed.
If not higher than that.
Yeah. The dud from this game, Siren Watson. Obviously, it's been a bad. Just
Siren Watson.
No bias at all. I think Liz McGrath has to be in that conversation, not to her fault, but for the owners.
Yeah, great. And the thing at Siren Watson that's doing my head in at the moment is the free kicks against is just being ridiculous. She gave none away in the first week and scored solid. Then last week gave away 4. This week gave away 3. And it's just, she had no marks in this game either. West Coast are actually a tough matchup for defenders. I don't know if many people have looked at that, but it's actually quite a tricky matchup for those defenders. But yeah, 35 down 114K this week. I'm not going to trade because I think she'll bounce back. But yeah, it's a disappointing score there. But as you said, Liz McGrath is certainly one that could get it. Jess Wrench was a little bit unders. So yeah, and then even Georgia Patrikos is probably lucky as well not to get it. She saved that score from being an absolute disaster at 3/4 time. I believe she had 25-point last quarter with 4 tackles. So I think she may need to be someone that we're looking at trading out as we chat about that later on. Moving to a cracking game of football, Geelong and Sydney. Very good game. Sydney by 5 points. Really happy as I tipped Sydney. So I was glad that they got over the line in the end. Couple of good scores here, so Jake. So who are you giving the stud to?
This is one of the hardest ones. I mean, Sydney have performed impeccably well to start the year. I think they've got 7 players averaging over 80. Obviously, those couple of tons there, even after Laura Gardner's poor performance on the weekend. Splitting hairs here, I think I'm going to give it to Ali Morfitt. Pretty poor round 1, bang average round 2, and then a 121 here against Geelong. I mean, top scoring ruck in years past. And great to see. Again, 23 just touches, 18 hit-outs, marks, tackles, etc. Probably rough on Sophia Hurley and Chloe Malloy, a clear F1 right now. So a lot of very relevant Sydney players, and they are all continuing to perform at a heavy disposal load shared among probably 5, 6, 7 of their players week in, week out.
Yeah, and Malloy did this score with only 1 goal, and she wasn't too busy in the first half, but went to the midfield and looked great. So, yep, I agree. She's right up there with Goldsworthy as the top couple of forwards for sure. Ash Maloney as well was the player that I said on Friday I was fairly keen on. Thursday night, sorry. Thursday night I was pretty keen on. And, yeah, would have been nice to have brought her in this week. She was, again, very, very good with a 102. the dud from this game is actually going to go to equal to the 7th and 8th highest scoring player of the game. That being Laura Gardner and Georgie Prasparkas. That was first quarter. I was sitting there, the bit of a head wobble going, like Laura Gardner again's on 40 points at quarter time. Georgie Prasparkas on 32, even with a tag, but not seen really after that. And I think the thing with Laura Gardner's been a bit disappointing last 2 weeks is the time on ground is taking a slight dip. Like 86% on the weekend's not too bad, but she was at 91% against Richmond in round one. I thought, oh, here we go. If she's going to play 90% TOG every week, that's looking great. But 72% last week with a massive score and 86% this week is a little bit unders. And then, George Prasparkas got the tag from Tanya Kennedy. I flagged that I was looking at trading her out with that tag, but she now does come into a pretty good month of matchups. So I'm still confident that she can turn it around. Moving to the next game, and that was Port Adelaide and Gold Coast. Port with a massive win. They did set the record for the highest ever AFL Cup score by
24 hours.
Only to be beaten 24 hours to be beaten today. I know what's going to come here, right? I know who the stud's going to. It's the
I feel like I want to play. Yeah, I feel like I want to play devil's advocate. I mean, it's clearly Matilda Schultz. Like, without a doubt, it's Matilda Schultz. But if I'm going to give a sneaky, will be a slight insight to my trade plans for this week. Ella Heads in that midfield role looked excellent. I think that there's something to be spoken about.
It was a wing role though. It wasn't inside. It was a wing role. But they were looking for. I've watched this game. I can comment on this game. I watched it. This is the one, so I'm going to chime in and just chat. It was a wing. I'm also super impressed. They were looking for her as the exit almost every time out of D50. It was kick it to Heads on the wing, great overhead marker, great contested mark, and they were looking for that. I just worry is a wing roll, and that can be a bit hot and cold.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to see the CBAs once they're out. I mean, they've seemed to use her in there a little bit the week prior, and I thought I saw her there.
I didn't really use her at all. No, as an Ash Woodland owner, I was getting frustrated at the lack of Ash Woodland in there. Sinead Goody was there, really high CBA numbers, almost like that wing role is now over, and it's now almost an option because she was elite on ball.
We've been calling. Everyone's been calling for Goody to play in the midfield since she started. Yeah. She's dominating as a junior mid and playing on a wing. But if she's going to be in that midfield, that could be good things for at least moving forward. Maybe not. I don't know if we're trading her in this year, just with the options we've got in the mids. But future years, I think she's a gun and she's going to keep going. But I guess that Matilda Schultz gets it right. The one, the stud that I liked, I think's got a prop right. The score isn't great when you look at just the score. But Charlie Rowbottom with an 84, I think also gets a bit of a mention in the stud. She was on about 20 points or so, and she copped a big shoulder knock, and she looked like she was done. She came back on in the second quarter, and she was running around with one arm, but somehow was able to fight on for the rest of the game and get an 84, which if you didn't trade her out, you're trading out now, but it's not too bad.
A mixture of junk time, but Gold Coast seemed to find something with Neve McLaughlin going into that centre bounce in the fourth quarter. Shout out to her with the 81. As an owner,
first tackle for the season in this game, which is crazy.
Well, I think she had like 3 centre clearances in a row at the start of the fourth quarter, and that pushed Charlie Rowbottom actually out of the CBA's forward and actually gave Gold Coast some kind of presence up forward. So I don't know if that's something that we might see going forward if Rowbottom's fit. It did look quite a bad shoulder injury. But good news for Neve McLaughlin is if she's going to get more mid-time. So I thought she was elite in that role.
Yeah. So did you actually give your stud, though, to Matilda Schultz, Jay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. More of an honourable mention. And Neve was probably third on the list as well. She's been great. And then the additional role, I think, is exciting for all owners out there.
Yeah. Havana Harris wasn't too bad as well. Just the fact that she got outscored by 63 points, it certainly wasn't as good in the end. But yeah, my dud from this game, it's harsh because I don't think there are a lot of bad scores from fantasy relevant players. I'm giving it to Ash Woodland for a 71, and people are going to go 71 for a forward's not bad, right? But when you pay for a forward, you probably pay nearly 200k more than Taylor Harris, which I know who scored less. But when there's only like not even 20 points difference between the two, and you could have gone for Ash Maloney, could have gone for Eden Zanker, could have gone for someone else, and we went for Ash Woodland, who 71 this matchup. Was disappointing. The role wasn't what I wanted either. So hoping that turns around moving forward. But that is a bit of a flag if that's going to change week to week. Maybe she's not as safe an option as a top 5 forward than what we thought. So she gets this when she's been put on notice moving forward.
It might be one of those things for Ash. As in, I brought her in last week, so I wasn't as disappointed with the 71. Where she seemed to play more on ball in the tougher matchups. Being that bigger body, maybe that's what they do. And I kind of don't mind her more forward in the easier matchups because the ball's going to be down there. So it might not be ideal, but it could be serviceable as a top 5 adjacent forward.
Yeah, Gemma Houghton stole all the forward points and Matilda Schultz when she was down there. So not really much else for Woodland to get. But West Coast next week for Woodland, hoping for a bounce, for not bounce back per se, but maybe another decent score. But we'll have to see. Let's move to the next game, which was a bit of a tussle. This game here with the Dogs and Hawks, with the Hawks winning by 4 points in a 3-goal combined game, which I know Emily Bates wasn't too happy with after the game, hearing her speak and saying that they were hoping to have a lot more goals. But who gets your stud for this game, Jake?
Oh, I'd hope she was hoping there'd be a lot more goals. If she went into the game and said, I hope this game has a total of 3 goals, I'd be a bit disappointed. But it's funny, right? I've got a few different thoughts here. Part of me wants to give it to Elise Edmonds for an 87 with 4 disposals, 11 tackles and 36 hit-outs. Is one way to fill a stat line. Obviously, a perennial ruck. I think she's a top 3, top 4 ruck in the competition, so that's a good score.
Did you see her quarter time score? What she was on at quarter time? She was on 36 points with no kicks, no handballs, 1 mark, and 6 tackles with 12 hit outs. So how
did she have a mark and no disposal? Did she mark it on the siren?
The siren must have gone or something. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a mark there and no touches. So interesting one, but no, good score from her.
Yeah, I think, Tilly Lucas-Rowan obviously has been fantastic to start the year. And someone who I almost started was Elizabeth Georgiou-Stathis. And she's been very consistent, sitting up there as a top 5 defender as well. So a couple of call-outs, but just for the sheer uniqueness of the stat line, I'll give it to Elise.
Georgia moving on ball has definitely been a positive for her score. The consistency for her scoring. A lot of these players who did well in this game I owned last year. In Edmonds and Georgiou-Stathis. Can I got those points last year and I might have a hat to go with my in my collection, but no, definitely possible options to bring in.
Yeah. My dud for this game is unfortunately going to go to a couple of rookies in Hayley McLaughlin and Sarah Pousty, both after having a couple of okay weeks. McLaughlin was churning along a little bit of cash, and Pousty had a good game last week and even round 1. But yeah, a couple of low ones there. 30 for McLaughlin and 27 for Pousty, unfortunately, stalled their cash gen. Could be a couple of rookies you may look to move over across to another one. But also, Laura Stone was great. 68. The second half, though, what was it? 13 points. Just to get a lot more cash would have been nice for a 30-point quarter. But she had an ankle injury in the first quarter, and a lot of people thought that might have been her maybe potentially done for the night, but she came back on and she scored pretty well still. So, no, very good score from Laura Stone. Moving over to the Sunday games, just the 3 games on Sunday. Collingwood and Melbourne, with Melbourne get the job done by 4 points. A lot closer, I think, than what we probably all thought going into this game, with no slice for Collingwood. So not a bad effort from Collingwood to get fairly close, and even had 1 extra scoring shot there. But who gets your stud from this game, Jake?
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about the extra scoring shot. I don't know if anyone actually watched the end of that game. That was a particularly big finish. Imogen Barnett owners obviously would be minorly happy, but if you'd kicked the goal with 30 seconds left, you probably would have been significantly happier. Look, I mean, there's 2 players here, and they're the second and third highest averaging players in the competition, and that's Britt Benici and Tyler Hanks. They've both been epic for owners. If anyone did start, they're pretty unique. I don't know that I can split them. Both turned up again. Britt looks fantastic, but yeah, second and third highest scoring players, averaging players, both above Noffy now. So well done to anyone who went that way, and you'd be happy again Sunday morning.
Yeah, exactly. My dud for this game, I reckon I'm going to give it to the the Collingwood coaching staff. But where was the information that Ash Centra was sick during the week? Heard nothing about it, and it was just sort of, I just remember hearing in the first quarter, I can't remember if it was Jack Heverin or Kate McCarthy. One of them was just like, oh yeah, Ash Centra, she's been sick during the week, and she's got obviously managed with an interrupted preseason. I'm just like, that's great to know after like being in the middle of the game and just dropping that. So wish we could have known that. But no, my actual dud from this game goes to Sabrina Frederick, just the 21. I know that not really fantasy relevant this year, but just a drop off in terms of Imogen Barnett being that main ruck now, and Sabrina Frederick being a lot more of that deeper forward. Is she just unfortunately fallen away this season there. Moving to the second last game, who with the team that now holds the highest ever score in AFLW, which I guess is great for the comp, right? That we're having multiple teams scoring over 100 points. Maybe not the 100-point loss is probably not what we want to see, but good at least a team going along pretty well in North Melbourne over Freo. So big win here. Who gets your start from this game? Jake?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty obviously Ash Riddell at 145. You can't really knock that whatsoever. Tessa Boyd owners, if she was on field for me and I didn't make such a silly mistake as most of us did, worrying about the Carney in, I might have felt a little bit differently. She probably had the best points per dollar. I can't go past 145, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. She was fantastic. Just a casual 40 touches again. She got 43 last week, 40 again. Just loves getting the pill, that's for sure, for Ash Riddell. My dud from this game. So, Tom, Ange Stannett at all? Ange Stannett gets the dud, 38. No, I'll give it to someone else just because it'll bring up some bad memories from you. I'm going to give the dud from this game. I'm actually going to give it to someone that we'll talk about in trade outs potentially. That's Kiara Bowers, 71. If anyone looked at her score at quarter time, she was on 39. And people are like, here we go, usual Bowers, the sort of normal business as usual. But to score 32 points after quarter time, I know that North Melbourne won by a lot, but it's concerning that she's not getting the ball a lot. And she didn't have any tackles today, which is why her score was poor. But yeah, just a bit of a concern there for Kiara Bowers moving forward there. But yeah, a lot of good scores in this game. A couple of rookies in Tessa Boyd and Blaheem Bogue, both again going well. So if you got them, good for some cash gen. Moving over to the final game, which was Brisbane and Carlton. With Carlton getting a surprise win here and playing really well, defeating Brisbane by 14 points. Who gets your stud from this game, Jake?
It's probably the only one that I've kind of come into without really any context. I didn't see this at all. Partially because I had no one in this game and I kind of was hoping I'd hold on to a top 150 spot. So I switched off and just hoped that Brie Conan didn't touch the ball, which was looking okay until the last quarter. I mean, Darcy Finn, obviously averaging 60s over her first 2 weeks and then dropping a 118 is pretty hard to go past. 19 kicks, 10 handballs, 10 marks. Other than that, I was trying to look at someone that maybe has surprised us. And I think Yaz Dersma just turned up this year compared to what we saw last year. Anyone that went that way on name basis or anyone who said it started there last year would be pretty happy with some of these scores so far.
Yeah, and our own Fitzpatrick as well was also very good. A cheaper player that a few people started with. I know Liam was keen the preseason. Struggled last week, but then a 109, but a leg injury at pretty much towards the real sort of right at the end of the game. Hopefully it's not a serious leg injury, but that's something to keep an eye on. But she's done well with her cash gen, but it's going to be disappointing she misses weeks because she was going to probably make a heap more cash for you if you did have her. My dud from this game, probably not a huge game in terms of fantasy relevance for a lot of players. There's a lot of pods and stuff that people have got in here, but a couple of Brisbane premiums in Ali Anderson and Jade Ellinger, disappointing scores. Ali Anderson has had a real tough year so far, nowhere near the levels we've seen in previous years, and 56 points. And I remember the game last year she played against Carlton. She dominated them and put up a massive score, 56 this time. And Ellinger with a 48 is a little bit disappointing. But I'll give it to Ali Anderson being the midfielder that we do expect a bit more from her. So hopefully she can find some good form soon. But that game, some trade in and outs for the week, and we'll start off with the trade outs this week. And Tom, I'll go to you first. This one, I obviously mentioned this off the top, but Kiara Bowers, 71. She not a great score. I know it was against North Melbourne. It's a tough matchup, and she was on a good score at quarter time. But if you look at the disposal, so she had 22 in week 1, which was not bad, but then only 18 against Brisbane and 17 this week, and only 4 tackles. Is there concern from you moving forward that if she's not getting those disposal numbers, that it's really just relying on tackles?
Yeah, I think the big point in this is those 5 on-field midfield spots are so precious and so vital to being able to having a good side. And I just think the ceiling isn't quite there. Freo have had some tough games to start the year. That has to be said. The last 2 weeks, Freo have been absolutely battered. And I think they're a half-decent side. I don't think that's going to happen every single week. So maybe the scoring comes around as a result of that. But I think there's some players who are scoring at a similar price, who are scoring 10, 15, 20 points more, where if you have a spare trade this week, an upgrade slightly across to a Hanks, to a Benici, could be a definite play.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about it, it's probably the Hanks for mine. I think the biggest thing in these trades is you just can't go down. And in my opinion, you can't go down because you're spending up a player who has absolutely the prowess, at least in her history, to push the top 5. I think her matchup this week obviously went against her. Her team just had the highest score in AFLW ever put up against them. So I think you got to factor that in. So I think she'll be sensible and not bad to keep. But I think a Tyler Hanks with their matchups coming up is absolutely a shout. Benici coming up against North this week does not fill me with any confidence. I don't think I'd be making that move myself, as good as she did look.
The question, I guess, with the Kiara Bowers one is for those, like I'm in this boat as well. The 5 primo mids and they've got Zippy Fish on field. So I can actually move Kiara Bowers to pretty much any player I want in the game. So I can go to a Mim Strom in the ruck, put Havana Harris on the bench, continue to cash in with Havana Harris and put Zippy on field. I could go Bowers sideways again to a Hanks or a Benici. There's a few options. Or I could even go to a Tilly Lucas right in defense. Like you go there, put Wrench on the bench or even downgrade her to a rookie. Is that a play, Jake? So you're saying don't go down, but could you to another spot if you've got the Zippy Fish on the bench and then you've got the flexibility to get another player? Because maybe some people don't. Maybe they've got a defender or a forward in the utility, but if you've got the flexibility, is that a play?
Flexibility and utility, yeah, absolutely. I would be making that play in a heartbeat. If Zippy's on my bench, she's plenty good enough. I think I can see a world where you'd maybe wanting to make moves in the midfield and continuing to upgrade there. But presumably, no team is yet in a position that they're going to have, a Malloy, Zali, the defenders that you just mentioned there, and also have Zippy on your bench. There's just not the case that is, maybe 3 or 4 teams out there that might be in a very, very, very fortunate position. But I think Kiara going to a top 2 or 3 player in another position to get Zippy on field is absolutely something I'd sign off on.
Yeah, because I've looked at potentially Strom and also Malloy, maybe getting either of those in my team to do that. Tom?
Question. Who goes first, George Prasparkis or Kiara Bowers? Because George Prasparkis has put up 2 low tons in the first 2 weeks. Yes, they have had very tough matchups. Geelong to start the year is they both put up basically the same score this week. I think he's actually closer than you would give it credit for. Which one should go first?
Yeah, I'm actually, last week I was Prasparkis. I think this week I'm definitely in Bowers because if you look at Prasparkis' score 74, she did that with a Tanya Kennedy tag the whole game. It was a lot harder after halftime with the tag, but the tag was on her the whole game. And then before that, she scored 2 low tons against North Melbourne and Adelaide. Now she comes up she's got the Bombers this week. After that, she goes into, I'm just getting up the fixture, I believe it's Port Adelaide the week after, or it might be another potential opponent there. So Richmond, it's Richmond after, then it's Port Adelaide, and then they go Hawthorn is their sort of next tougher game. Whereas you look at Kiara Bowers' run coming up. So she goes Sydney this upcoming week, who have been a bit trickier to score against. And obviously we've seen tags. Does maybe Tanya Kenny go to Bowers? There's a bit of a tension there in that game. Then they go into West Coast, which is not too bad. Bowers likes playing West Coast. Then the Bombers, which isn't too bad either. And then Carlton, who were, again, restrictive again today. So just, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think either could go, but I think that, yeah, just like, do you keep Vish on the bench and you keep the midfield spots, or do you maybe do a bit of a restructure if you've got that ability to? So something definitely for coaches to consider. Serene Watson, Jake, has she just lost too much cash at this point to really move on? Because if you look at the games, Adelaide 72 when she had, I think, a 0.2 second quarter or something it was. Round 2, 64. Again, she had like a single-digit quarter in that game and gave away a lot of free kicks. And this week had a -1 point first quarter and gave away a ton of free kicks again. And West Coast being a difficult matchup. Is she just a hold at this point, or do you think she's someone that you've got to trade?
I'm still firmly in the trade. The way that the price mechanism works in this game, she's lost 114k this week, but if she puts up that score again next week, she's losing that again. She could potentially lose another 200 just like that. I'm completely fine with the trade. Again, with the conscious thought of where you're going, or, you're in Tom's position and you've still got a Boyd and not on the bench. If you've got those guys on the bench and you're comfortable, what I did this week was exactly that. Get on field and then restructure Serene to be a better forward, because I wasn't happy with F4 or 5. At least that way you're improving in other lines. So, again, team dependent. I know we hate that phrase, but I'm completely fine with moving her on, particularly for teams that are in a fortunate position with Tessa Boyd on the bench. Because if you haven't got her, you've missed the boat, I think is what I would say there.
Yeah,
she's very, very expensive. Yeah, agreed. In terms of the only other defender probably of note that might be looking to move, if you did maybe bring in Chelsea Randall, was a bit of a pod. I think she's just got to go. I think that role was just not good. Brisbane this week, I wouldn't be shocked if she went back into the midfield in a game like this, but I just think she's 660k. I'd be jumping off, and you can always jump back on if she's at a cheaper price. But besides that, I think Jess Wrench, Tom, does she? I'm assuming she goes. I think she's topped out in price. Is she one that you'd be trading?
Yeah, and she is the perfect example of this is the time to go. I think she went up like 20k, 240s in a row. It was only a 70, a 74 for a defensive rookie is amazing, but it was only a 74 in round 1. It wasn't the 90s that you've seen with a Painter or a Fitzpatrick. I know she got injured at the end of the game, but it was only a 70, and we've had 240s. It's just thank you.
And it was against Gold Coast
Great
as well.
Yeah, and it was against Gold Coast, who, I mean, I think even I could score against. So,
yeah, exactly. I think she's got to go. And is it just a case of if she's on field, does she go up, or do you think if you got Boyd on the bench, Jake, do you think that Tessa Boyd can start on field this week? So obviously the risk with Boyd is that we thought that her job security was maybe a bit touchy week to week, but she's playing too well. I can't drop her the way she's playing.
She's named, you can start her. There's 2 back-to-back 70s in a defensive line where, a 50 at that price as a D5 is probably passable. I'm fine with it. I couldn't argue.
Wash your mouth out. It was an 80 this week.
Sorry, correct? Not correct. This is the thing, right? Yeah. I'll try to remind myself. Yeah, 100%. You're pretty safe in that role. And again, we're at round 4 at the end of the day. We're not at round 8. So
yeah. Ash Centra, does she stay, Jake? Like a 48, she was sick. She obviously played a fair bit of midfield time again.
I'm the wrong person to ask, Bales. I'm the wrong person to ask here. I told everyone to trade her round 1. I get the Centra hype. I get it. But with the score she put at round 1, it's still the cash gen. You've just stuffed yourself if you still got her. And I think at this point, you now hold it. There's no one else that I'd be trading her to that I feel more confident in now.
Greaves?
Having better
Greaves
scores.
Is probably someone that you can, with the low break even, she's up at 500, just over 500k, maybe.
But Greaves is the 1 week player, right? That's the. I think Greaves just had a good score. She was great, but I don't see that sustainably. I see it as a 50 this week coming. I'm very lucky. I did Centra to Boyd this week as one of my trades.
Yeah,
I kissed. But I think it just becomes the difference. Like a lot of us, like us three playing on the pod, and a lot of the people watching, we come from a men's fantasy background where you can be a little bit more passive and stick with these players. Patient, that's the word. Whereas I actually think in AFLW it rewards being a little bit over aggressive. Actually just getting off. But Century now is probably a hold.
So 22 falls off, right? So she's actually coming up.
The interesting thing about Accentra is that she's actually gone up 11% TOG exactly each week. So she was 61% in round 1, 72% in round 2, and 83% this week. The only thing was she had clearly was sick based on what we heard in the commentary. So I think she is a hold. I think Tom, even you mentioned just before we started recording, because I'm having internet difficulties tonight of all days, of course, when we're recording. But she's probably a trade in, arguably. You could say, could you trade her in at 458k if you did trade out, because that 22 drops out of her cycle now, and now she's got those couple of good scores in a row. So I think she's someone that you could arguably look at bringing in. The final trade out I want to touch on before we go into trade-ins, before we wrap up, is, Jake, is it too early? Because we've seen with Marinoff scoring not as big as what we've seen. Is it time now to look at maybe going a Piper Dunlop down to a red dot, or going another rookie down to a red dot and bringing in someone to loop with a couple of options? Because we saw with Jazz Garner, for those that went straight into her, she obviously unfortunately got injured. It's not going to happen every week, hopefully, but that can always happen. And Noffy's not going those 130s, 140s like last year. Is it a play? And I use Dunlop as the example because she's going up 40, 50k every week, but not going up huge amounts of money. Could you just get the 148k off her, get a red dot ruck in, and use that as a bit of a loop?
I don't like this play personally. I can see why people do. Again, I've got Ash Riddell, so of course I don't like this play because I feel pretty safe after the last 2 weeks. I see why people would want to do it. And to be fair, I looped first week, and that's why I went with the Tessa Boyd. That's worked out a treat, but it could easily have gone the other way. And I'm now 300k behind on cash gen. So, yeah, for me, it's too early. It's not something I'll be looking at doing. Ellie Simmons, again, I didn't see too much of this. I watched a little bit against the Dogs, but 40% time on ground with a 50-point game. Okay, there you go.
She got injured.
I was going to say, I couldn't
see
was
flying.
She was flying.
She was flying and then went off, got injured, and as a result. So
I'm just wondering if there's other players that, again, you can jump into and they are already on their cash gen journey and you're going to be much better off. Of course, you run into Jazz Garner. The reality is if people went Noffy into Garner, if you had the loop, you're going to take the VC on and be worse off. So
yeah,
if it works out that one of your players is dropped, I wouldn't be chasing to get a player in for them, is what I would say. But I don't think I would trade into a red dot either.
Yeah, because Grace Kosh isn't going to be a red dot again this week. She plays half an hour. She plays the second game 30 minutes after the first one. So we're not even going to be able to get a look at anyone again this week. But I think with Marinoff having Brisbane and Riddell having Collingwood, if you got both, I think it's probably Riddell this week. I think if you're looking at the captain. So yeah, no, it's something to definitely I think put on the back burner for the time being. Yeah, bang, there you go. He's already got it sorted, ready to go. He's already got his team sorted. So interesting to hear his trades, what they're looking like ahead of this week. But trade-ins, we'll go quickly by line. But if you've got the cash, Jake, 1.101 million, is Tilly Lucas Rod a potential option to bring in if you've got the cash?
Gosh. Yes. I mean, I can't say she's not an option, can I? That'd be an outrageous call. It's such a short season. It's just noting that she is 300k, pretty well more expensive than anyone else in that line. I think Emma Carney is intriguing to me. Coming back, low time on ground, still putting up an 84. We've seen excellent scores from her in the past. Cambridge McCormick's score on this weekend was particularly amazing. Giorgio in the guts, as Tom already alluded to. They're all 200k cheaper. I think I'll be going in each of those directions rather than Tilly, even though Tilly is fantastic. And I expect that she will be up there as a top 3 kind of defender. I just think this early in the season, you still got to play the value game as you do in most fantasy games. And there's a few other names I'd rather.
Yeah. One name that I do like, Tom, I want to get your thoughts on, Charlie Thomas. He's down to 834k, dropped a little bit in cash, 53 on the weekend. 98% tog is also very, very good to see. But I just think it dropped a little bit in price. If you're hunting for someone that might be a little bit of value, is Charlie Thomas someone you could bring in?
Oh, 100%. Like if you wanted to do a simple downgrade, upgrade, and then want a sideways like a Serene Watson, like that's only 80k to someone who like is more as likely to be a top 5 defender and isn't quite on the downward trajectory that Serene is.
Yeah.
Or not as bad anyway.
Yeah. Is it, Jake, you mentioned before, is it too late for Tess Boyd? Like 621k, if she's named again, she's going to have such a low break even that she's going to keep making a lot of money. If you didn't jump on, is it too late?
It's not
Tom?
that low. It's not that low. Like, she's now priced at about 50 and she averages like 76. Like,
I guess it's more for those coaches that have got maybe a wrench on field. Could you just maybe a little bit of cash just go up on field?
But this is my point. I don't think you can go there because it's not. She puts up a 50, and that cash gen is gone. That cash gen is completely gone. I think that if you don't own Tess Boyd, it's over.
Yep, 100%. As I said,
I think so as well.
Yeah,
I think 621k, even Beckott over 600k now as well. I think you're probably looking for cheaper because you 200k, you're getting a defender might have put up a decent score at 400k. Maybe you sort of look in that direction instead. I'm just looking through the rookies in defense. Didn't seem like anyone really put up a massive score. Like Gemma Rigoni put up a 43. Not necessarily you don't have to bring her in, but maybe if you're going wrench down, that could be a place where you do get the cash from. So yeah, probably not many defensive rookies on the looking there. Ash Riddell, Jake, you've got her. I've got her. Tom's got her. Us three got her. But for those that don't, is 1.582 million? Is it too expensive now? Is it just because Garner was 1.6 last week, and obviously the more expensive they are, the more that if it goes wrong, it can really hurt. Like Jazz Garner dropped 184k this week, which is a lot. Is it just if you don't have Riddell, you're just hunting for value?
Yeah, one really quick point just on the last one. Sorry, Bales. Just I'd go as far to say if you've got Jess Wrench on field D5 and you don't have an Ott or Boyd to bring on field, I'm okay with holding for the week. I'd like to trade her. I'll probably be trading her, but I still think her role is better than anyone you're going to take her down to that then has to play D5, unless you're trading her up. That's just the last point I want to make on that. Ash Riddell, same answer as I gave for Tilly. I just think she's too expensive. I think there's other players, 200, 300k cheaper. Get Tyler Hanks. Better run, 200k cheaper. Riddell's an absolute jet. I'm going to enjoy owning her. But what do you do to the rest of your team to get her in? Unless you're in a position with, Bowers up, and then you can make 2 other trades. But I'd still prefer to go Tyler Hanks and actually maybe find a third minor upgrade in your side.
Yeah, 90% tog as well for Ash Riddell. It's very, very good sign. A season high tog for her. Good to see. Obviously, Marinoff and Garner for coaches that started without Marinoff or don't have Garner. They're 2 ones, not this week, but ones to certainly watch because they're dropping in price. Hopefully, Marinoff doesn't keep dropping a heap in price because she's now down at 1.502 million. And I say down, it's what the second highest price player in the comp, but she was that much more expensive than everyone else. So if you didn't start her, then you're certainly looking potentially. Tom, just quickly, if you had Garner and she's out this week, could you make the move across to Marinoff if you didn't start Marinoff? Because you probably likely didn't if you have there, or are you going for maybe a Hanks or Benich and saving money and letting Marinoff drop a little bit more?
I think I'd take the game as a win and just get Aaron off.
I
You've
agree.
won the game. You've won the game of not starting her. Let's
So
not
jump
do
on
what.
now. Yeah.
Just take the fact you've won, and you've got her like 400k, like 30 points cheaper than the
Imagine
rest
losing
of us.
376k and still putting up 3 tons to start the season. It just feels outrageous,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Averaging like 110, and that's been disappointing.
Average for Noffy 115, but we said that anything
115.
lower than
115.
anything lower
Sorry,
than 120 was
115.
anything lower than
115 would have been 115 would have been the highest averaging player last year.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, just Ash Riddell's decided to go absolutely monster 2 weeks in a row and put that right up, averaging what's that 134.7 for Ash Riddell. So cracking start for her. I think with all the other options here, like Tyler Hanks, Britt Benici, I think Ella Roberts is an option if you want to go there. Mon Conti has also been impressive to start the year. That's now 3 good scores to begin the year. Could be another option. Gardner, maybe. She's had 1 big score out of 3, but I think she is going to still be a good player moving forward. Something to watch.
I just worry about the mouths at Sydney. The mouths worry me at Sydney. I don't think they're as good as North Melbourne, who have all of the mouths but have enough points to be able to feed them all. I just worry at Sydney with Gardner, Malloy, Ham, Morfitt. Like, I don't think they're that good as a side to be able to all of those to score well.
Yeah,
Just
and just to double down on Benici, it's not just North this week; it's Sydney the week after and Hawthorn the week after. So that's don't touch it. Sorry, she's been good. Don't touch it.
Tyler Hanks is a really, really good option. I don't even mind a Kate Hoare. If you wanted to go down,
she's still cheap. Didn't put
she's
up a
still
990k.
Still got a great run. If you want to go Bowers down, I know you said earlier don't do Bowers down, but if you wanted to kind of do Kate Hoare for a little cash grab, which will allow you to do a second upgrade,
wrench up maybe.
So you can do rookie down, wrench, or rookie down Bowers to Hoare, wrench all the way up to a top line defender. I don't mind that as a play.
I'm with you. I like that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no, I like it. Yeah, Kate Hoare, 100% time on Grant as well today. That was pretty impressive there. We didn't mention trade outs, but I think Georgia Patricios, if you've got, I think that's a get off now. Take the money you've made at the start. She got the bit in price this week, and we know that her role with Nick D'Alsanto, he loves chucking around everywhere when there's a few other midfielders back in, which we saw on the weekend there. Obviously, scrolling down the list of the midfielders, there's no real sort of mid prices we're probably looking at, but we obviously saw a couple of midfielders. So Sierra Greaves, 499k. I think that's a potential option to jump onto to make some quick cash may for a week or two. Obviously, Tom, you mentioned our Centra potentially. If you don't have the money for Greaves, maybe you could go for Centra. That 22 does go out of our price cycle now moving forward. Just looking here, is there any other midfielders? Probably not that you have to jump on. I think it's probably those 2 rookies that you're looking towards. So move to the rucks. Mim Strom, Tom, is it potentially time to maybe bring her in? It's for a few teams depending. If you've got Bill Schultz, you're not thinking about it. You keep Schultz there for the time being. If you've got like a Havana Harris, for example, could you be going Havana Harris or another ruck you may have that you're not happy with? So I think a lot of people, they got Morfitt, you're not trading. Alice Edmonds, you're not trading. Lucy Wells, you're probably not trading either. You're probably thinking at half time with Simon's there, but she got 90 with Simon's injured. But if you've got a Harris, is it maybe could you go to Strom and just get her in? Because she hasn't 105, 89, and 97, coming down a bit in price. Do you just keep waiting with Morfitt this week?
I think you wait. I think the run gets really soft soon, but we're not there yet. Sydney are harder this year just due to it not being George Davies in the ruck. I
Who's
I
that?
think you're waiting.
Who's that?
Davies for last year.
Oh,
Giselle Davis.
Giselle Davis.
Giselle
Yep, yep.
Davis. Sorry, Giselle. Sorry, George Davis. Someone else. Giselle Davis. Sorry, I'm getting flashbacks to last year and watching her stink it up. Yeah, so I think you wait. I think because that's a lot of cash, right? You're still paying 500k ish, 600k. I just think that's too much money at this stage for someone who, I mean, Matilda Schultz is only averaging 10 less. And I'm not saying bring Schultz in either, because I think as a Schultz owner, I have been kissed, massively kissed. An injury followed by.
I'm glad you admit that. I'm not
Oh,
saying
I kissed.
Most Schultz owners, are saying that, but I want to hear it more because I traded out and I haven't been kissed. I've been slapped in the face. That's what I've been.
Absolutely kissed. But I'm going to enjoy my sideways to Mim Strom in 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I'm looking at. So I've got Havana Harris. She's got GOS this week. It's a good matchup for really most players, right? And we saw Havana Harris. The good thing about Havana Harris is that when she's not involved, she goes into the midfield. It happened again this week after halftime, and she actually looks decent in there. So I just think that she's going to have the coaches stuff are going to go, well, she's so good around the ball when she is in there. Let's get her in more. So I'm actually probably going to hold Havana Harris. She's up at 742k, went up 81k this week, and the 88 drops out, but the 74 is there. So I think there's still a little bit of cash in. She can put up another solid score, but it might not be a long-term hold, but something certainly that I could look at. But even like Eilish O'Dowd's cheaper than Havana Harris now. That's something that I could look at potentially as an owner. And maybe if you're looking for a cheaper ruck, that could be an area you go. But I don't think many people are looking at rucks at trades this week. Forward line. Jake, if you've got, again, we talked about Bowers, if you've got the ability to bring in a forward with maybe if you've got a mid for a utility, could you bring in Chloe Malloy at 1.147? It's expensive, but we saw she can get it done in a multitude of ways, regardless if she's not scoring goals. Is this a move that just lock her in the forward line and get put her in?
If I was very clear with defenders, I was very clear with midfielders. If there's a line I'm doing it, it's the forward line, and that is just because Malloy so far, and seemingly there's no one coming from the pack to chase her down, is going to be that much better at F1. Montana Ham, a huge week. Zali will undoubtedly get there, but pretty highly owned in their own rights. I think Barnett's clearly a 70s. Woodland's a 70s. Zanka is a look-in for me this week, and the others are pretty well playing exclusively forward. There's pretty well, after that, about a 15-point gap to everyone else. So I think there's a world that Malloy, other than maybe Zali and her teammate Montana, is 15 to 20 points clear of anyone else. So if you've got the cash and you're wanting to bring in a top liner anywhere, Chloe Malloy is the only one that I'm on board the train with.
Yeah, I think I do like the in. Obviously, she's gone up so much already, but as a forward, I think if you've got Goldsworthy already and Ham, and you can lock in those three, you're full on set probably for at least, because you've probably got Laura Stone at maybe F5. Then if you bring Malloy in, I think that's a move I'm certainly looking at this week, because Freo as a matchup, obviously we saw what North did this week. Sydney won't do the same, I can't imagine, but could be something that where she goes quite well, Jay.
I'll put this to the crowd here. So my forward line is Goldsworthy, Ham, Woodland, and Stone, right? So I'm bringing in my last forward position. I can bring in Zanka by moving just rookies around. Would you consider moving anyone slightly more expensive, someone that could be a fieldable player, etc., to avoid going a Zanka type and going all the way to Malloy?
Who's on field at the minute?
Sorry, I missed that.
Who's on field at the minute?
I'm trading out Hayley McLaughlin, the wrong Hawthorn player I brought in 2 weeks ago, to only rectify with Stone this week.
I would rookies and go McLaughlin to Zanka.
I would agree. The question I probably got to you boys is
just because
Zanka.
Cash is going, we're too early. We don't have enough cash in our side yet. In my opinion, the AFLW being now a 12-week comp, we're a quarter of the way through. to me, it's still too early to start writing off cash gens by paying up big checks. I did it for Zali. I didn't like it, but the midfield, I got kissed by the midfield role. At least Parker getting injured is kind of the reason why I did it, and the midfield role is there. I still think it's too early to be writing out big checks for players who are priced at what they're going to score. That isn't just you're bringing in a 70 guy or 70 player. Like if you're bringing in a 70 player, priced at 900, like a Charlie Thomas or a Georgia Stathis, priced at about 900, I can stomach it. But paying 1.1, I'm not on board.
I'm probably a bit more on board with the Malloy play. Just with, if you look at the forwards, I think she could be, if she's averaging an average about that 9,500 for the year, she could be 20 points clear of the F4 because a lot of people already got goals with that. So it's something I'm looking at, but there are a few options in that 800k range. I think Ash Woodland, if you didn't jump on last week, you're probably not jumping on now. There's probably cheaper options with maybe a matchup or two, a lot more. Like Imogen Barnett as well is 876, but she's got North this week. Don't love that matchup, even though she's been good to start the year, but you're probably not missing out on a lot because she's been mid to high 70s every week. But there's a few options, Jake, in that sort of low 800 range. So you got Caitlin Gould, 848k, dropped a little bit, got Brisbane, so probably not this week, but something to look at moving forward. Eden Danker still is a good price with another good matchup in Richmond. Tani Evans has got Gold Coast this week. Great matchup there. Could be an option. Ash Maloney being another one that had the tough match and there goes a good run coming up. She's 829. And then Taylor Harris a bit cheaper at 738 with against Richmond. Any of those, do you have a favourite out of those options there or a couple that you like?
Well, I mean, I said I was bringing in Eden Zanker, so it feels like I've got to put her on top there. I mean, I watched Tani Evans take the absolute mickey the first quarter against Collingwood, but the roles for her, Gould, are so deep that if their team isn't successful, and even though, Gould is playing a good side, much less so for Tani, they could easily drop a 20 or 30. And I just want to mitigate that as best as possible. Which is why, again, if I come back to this, the Malloys, the run for Sydney, no matter which role she plays in, it is so nice. I think they're coming up against what we talk about Fremantle this week. Then it's Collingwood. Then it's GWS. Like, I'm pivoting back to that last question, but far out. The Sydney run is clearly the best. Melbourne very closely. So for forwards and for a list of forwards who are playing predominantly forward, the run becomes so much more important. So if you can't get Malloy, I think it's got to be one of the girls that play for the Melbourne Demons.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Those shouts there. I do like Maloney as an option. That's the one that she dropped a lot last week, and then obviously had a good score on the weekend. She was one of the top averaging forwards last year. But yeah, the Melbourne run as well, and as you said, the Sydney run, if you want, apart from Malloy, is probably the directions that I would also be looking at going in. Just having a look here. Was there any rookies that popped their way through in the forward line? Just going down here to the forwards. I'm assuming it's too late, Tom, if you didn't jump on Laura Stone. She's, I think, mid 600s now. That's a bit like the Tessa Boyd. Too late.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm a little bit more saying I'd be hotter at getting Stone this week than Boyd. Just due to the fact Stone is a starting midfielder. She starts in the first centre bounce. She's a starting midfielder for Hawthorn at the minute, and if she can put together 4 quarters, has got a big score in her. But that's how I've got my glass half full. If she puts out a second half a first half like she's put some second halves, she's going to score a 30. So
you're not wrong, Tom. But I agree with you, because probably the other point that's super relevant besides her role is also her position. Again, if we're looking at Tessa Boyd, people are probably running a Nod or a Wrench who have great roles themselves at CBAs. So moving to a pure defender is somewhat counterintuitive. Whereas, I guess, who is your other F5? and in all likelihood, it's probably not someone any good. So for that reason, Laura Stone at her price and her role is significantly better than what else is around her. And I don't know that I'd say the same thing about Tessa Boyd. So agreed. If I'm bringing in someone at that price, she is probably the one. At the end of the day.
I guess the two downgrades in the forward line that you're probably looking at, 469k, Lauren Butler put up a 61, so that's going to be in the cycle for a couple of weeks. You could look there as a bit of a bench play for a couple of weeks, but I think it was the one that I think, Jake, you actually mentioned them before. Paige Scott, 384k to potentially bring in with a 63 last week. Is that someone you could potentially look at bringing in onto your bench?
I mean, yeah, of course you could. She had a 9 in her price cycle, so she didn't move up anywhere near as much as she should have behind a 63. At the end of the day, you're not bringing in someone that's going to be excellent at that price. I was looking at, I'm trying to recall her name, the Crows rookie, there was a potential bench option, Boyle Carr, low time on ground, but had a 54 this week after a 17. So similarly, kind of just getting the cash gen moving. But Paige Scott has done it in the past, and if her team can put up a half-decent performance, I think she's got a little bit more fantasy and footy nous. But she's also had 2 shockers in the first 2 weeks. So who says she doesn't just go back to normal programming?
They love about 5 free kicks against that every game. So for them to score to score a 50, they've got to score a 75. So
funny enough, so Paige Scott gave away 5 free kicks in round 1 for a 9, but then last week only 1 free kick against for 23, and then 2 free kicks against this week for a 63. So I think if you've got like a Grace caution, she's not back, and you want cash gen, you could potentially bring Paige Scott in, but it's not you have to jump on as much as like maybe a Tess Boyd last week, like where you thought it was going to go up a lot.
Yeah, I'm probably against Paige Scott at utility.
It's got to be on. Yeah, it's got to be on the bench.
No, but as in like as the utility spot on the bench, because I think you could get stuck there. Because that's something that I'm kind of weighing up, because a lot of the downgrade options are between 450 and 500, and if you need to make trade work, if you need that extra 100k. Can you go down to a Paige Scott in addition to a red dot of Kosh? Especially when there's a 9 from a full game in very, very in the rear view mirror, or is it better just to go for the best rolled rookie that gets named this week? Because there will be some rookies that get named.
Yeah, definitely something to look at for sure. But that will do us for the round 3 review. If you are watching on YouTube, apologies if there were a couple of instances where maybe it sort of paused or this audio wasn't great. I haven't listened back to it. Obviously, we're recording live, but a few internet issues here. And I'm using my hotspot tonight. First ever time I reckon I've recorded the pod and the internet's gone crap. So hopefully that hasn't affected it, and hopefully the pod is all good as well. But we'll quickly whip around the room in terms of some trade plans, or at least trade thoughts. Jake, so we'll start with you, mate. What are you, maybe if you don't have the trade set in there, obviously it's Sunday night, but have you got any?
No.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Lock it in.
What are you doing?
It might change. It might change. Look, I'm running Wrench, Pousty, Tonin at F6, and Hayley McLaughlin, as I already mentioned. So my plan is, as I kind of alluded to, 3 of those 4 are going. And Wrench makes sense, but also I have mid flexibility. I don't have defender flexibility. So for that, my initial trades were Pousty, Tonin, and McLaughlin. And that'll be getting Eden Zanker in, which leaves me Laura Stone at F5, and then 2 bench rookies. So it's either a Paige Scott, the Adelaide rookie I mentioned there, and then I've got 400k to play around with someone else. So I can't quite get Centra, albeit I don't hate it, Tom. So I like the thought there.
Yeah. Tom, any early thought? I know that obviously you haven't probably had a lot of time with moving house and stuff.
I've
but any
not
sort
had
of
a lot.
Thoughts, maybe?
I can do a Ott, Painter, and Bowers, which moves Wrench to the bench, to Lucas Rod, Hoare and Greaves.
Yeah.
But that whole Serene Watson, so I'm like, as you say, I've not had a lot of time. That could well
later in the
be
week, mate,
that could well be Hanks instead of Hoare and like Charlie Thomas instead of Lucas Robb. Depending on what I decide to do.
And for me, again, I haven't had a lot of time to look at it. I was out all day today, being on the Sunday. But I guess early thoughts without really putting a lot of thought into it. Bowers to Malloy, which benches Vesio and puts Fish on field at M5. It would be a Grace Kosh up to Sierra Greaves to get that cash gen move in there with Vesio being on my forward bench. And then maybe potentially, if I've got enough cash, then go wrench up. If not, maybe it'd be wrenched down to a rookie, play Boyd for a week, and then maybe reassess with the defense next week. But that's just some early thoughts. I've play around with it. Maybe it's getting a cheaper forward in. Maybe it's getting, maybe I can get Zanker and Charlie Thomas, for example. So I'll have a play around with my trades, and we'll go through them later on the week on our pre-lockout chat. So, but Jake, mate, thank you very much for jumping on. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Where can the people find you across the socials? And obviously, HatChat Pod is gone onto post-season break. But any sort of insight when we can expect HatChat going back chatting in 2026?
Of course, mate. Yeah, you can find me at Dunkley's Donuts. I'm pretty terrible at actually posting, but I do a pretty good job at replying. So if anyone does want any thoughts, they can reach out to me there. Of course, the HatChat Pod is at HatChat AFL. And yeah, a few weeks off, which will turn into a few months off pretty swiftly. We'll normally do a post-trade and draft review couple of weeks into December, a bit of a Merry Christmas for everyone, kind of counting down. But after that, we'll get back into full swing of things, almost exclusively on my birthday, which is right at the end of January. So bit of time off, a bit of a good break, much needed. Rest the lungs and the voice box. We know I lose my voice at least once a year. And if I did a 12-month series, it'd be 2 to 3 times, I can guarantee it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, mate. I'm sure we might be able to get you on again, the pod, to end out the year. Tom, mate, thanks for jumping on once again, mate. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on X at Tom_Hales_. Hopefully later in the week I'll have time to watch some of these games back and actually have some accurate thoughts going into it. I would say probably the start of upgrade season leading into week 4, sorry. Yeah.
No, fully agree there. You can find me at BAILSDT across the socials and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. If you are tuning in on YouTube, and can leave us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Still plenty of content for AFLW coming for the remainder of the year. And then obviously we'll have men's content obviously next year as well. So if you want to subscribe in the meantime, then make sure you do that. And if you're listening on the pod, a 5-star rating and review would be very much appreciated. I think we've got 49 reviews on Apple as well. So if one person could leave one rating there to get us to 50 ratings, that'd be fantastic. Preferably 5 stars if you are enjoying listening to the podcast. But yes, we'll be back later on the week. Obviously, we'll let you know if it's a Thursday or Friday for our... Oh, actually, no, it won't be Thursday because I'll be at Adelaide Oval cheering on the Mighty Crows against Collingwood in a jam-packed Adelaide Oval for the men's final. So looking forward to that. But it'll be, Friday or maybe Saturday morning. We'll let everyone know later on in the week. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Good luck this week. Have a good start to your week. And we'll chat to you guys later on in the week. So thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye.